For 2 decades, the football world believed a world-class striker had to dominate the ball to dominate the game. But behind closed doors, a silent catastrophe was already unfolding. While millions of fans criticize Erling Haaland for ghosting in big games, they completely miss the reality of the situation. His lack of touches is actually a strategic trap designed to paralyze entire defensive lines. And on July the 5th, 2026, Brazil's world-class defenders found out the hard way. A strolling, seemingly detached Haaland knocked them out of the World Cup with just 30 touches. 26. How does a striker destroy the tournament favorites without even getting involved in the build-up? People call him a tap-in merchant. They say he disappears when the lights get bright. Pundits sit in expensive studios and complain about his lack of involvement. But they are entirely blind to what is actually happening on the pitch. He isn't struggling to find the game. The man is deliberately hiding from it. This striker weaponizes his own absence. He forces center backs to make impossible decisions, breaking their concentration and ripping apart their defensive shape. This is not laziness. This is psychological warfare. And the evidence is hiding in plain sight. The numbers from his early days should have been a clear warning sign. 9 goals in 105 touches during his first 5 Premier League games back in August 2022. That ratio broke the statistical models. Everyone dismissed the record as a fluke, a lucky streak. Then the August 13th match against Bournemouth happened. He played 74 minutes in his home debut. Exactly 8 touches were recorded by him that afternoon. 8. Completing 2 passes all game was apparently enough to ignite a firestorm. The media tore him apart immediately. Critics called him isolated, disconnected. They called him a luxury player who couldn't possibly link up with Manchester City's intricate, possession-heavy system, demanding that he drop deep to involve himself in the build-up just to justify his huge price tag. Pundits labeled him a major mistake. Classic. But Pep Guardiola knew the truth. He sat in the post-match press conference, stared down the reporters, and delivered a blunt warning. Do not touch Erling. The manager told them the forward was extremely important for their setup. Guardiola understood the trap perfectly, because those 8 touches were enough to record an assist to Ilkay Gundogan and entirely shatter Bournemouth's defensive organization. The opponents spent the whole game watching a ghost, and City won 4-0. So how did things get this bad for modern defenses? Subscribe to this channel and you'll start noticing how many tactical traps like this happen right under your nose, which meant opposing managers had a serious problem on their hands. They assumed if you starved the Norwegian of service, you neutralized the threat. That logic completely backfired in August 2022. A full 90-minute Premier League match against Chelsea. He registered only 17 touches. 3 touches in an hour and a half of professional football. It was another demonstration of his ruthless efficiency. The internet exploded with jokes. Rival fans celebrated, claiming he was finally pocketed by a proper defense. But look at the actual scoreboard. City secured a comfortable 2-0 victory. The worst part? He scored the opening goal. He only needed 3 touches to ruin Chelsea's entire weekend. Paul Merson went on national television and shut down the critics immediately. The pundit said he would rather him score a goal than touch the ball 1,600 times and not score. That is the harsh reality. He doesn't need the ball to control the match. He just needs a fraction of a second to end it. The less he touches the leather, the more dangerous he becomes. Teams were celebrating his low involvement while entirely missing the fact that they were losing the actual game. And that forced defenders to completely rewrite their fundamental playbooks. Because marking him conventionally is a death sentence on the pitch. By October 2025, veteran defenders started breaking their silence about the nightmare. Nicolas Moisander came out and publicly admitted what every center back was privately terrified of. Individual marking against this man is impossible. Impossible. You cannot stop him one-on-one. His elite box movement forces teams to design entire, multiplayer defensive blocks just to monitor him. Imagine the psychological toll that takes on a defensive unit. You spend 90 minutes watching a towering forward jog slowly around the penalty area. The forward looks completely disconnected. Looking bored is part of the ruse. But what happens when you blink? The moment you turn your head to track the ball, he explodes into space. You are paralyzed by the constant threat of what he might do. You stop playing your natural game. You stop stepping up to catch wingers offside. Defenders just watch him. Your entire defensive line drops 10 yards deeper out of pure fear. Therefore, entire defensive structures collapse under the weight of their own paranoia. We saw the pinnacle of this on April 4th, 2026. The FA Cup quarter-final. Arne Slot brought a well-organized Liverpool side to Manchester, carrying a meticulous plan designed specifically to isolate the striker from his midfield support. Keeping the ball away from the giant in the middle remained their only priority. Exactly 16 touches were registered by him that entire afternoon, the fewest of any Manchester City starter by a wide margin. Liverpool thought their defensive system was working flawlessly, but the reality was a total bloodbath. He scored the shot he put on target found the back of the net. The striker dismantled a world-class Liverpool defense, not by outmuscling them, but by outweighting them. He let them feel safe, right up until the exact second he destroyed them. If this breakdown is hitting different, take a second to hit like. It genuinely helps the algorithm show this to more people who need to see it. Because of this merciless efficiency, his role evolved into something unprecedented. Under Norway manager Ståle Solbakken, the national team strategy shifted dramatically. They stopped trying to force the ball to their superstar. Instead, they turned him into the perfect channel-clearing decoy. He executes brutal diagonal runs into the half spaces, not to receive a pass, purely to drag terrified center backs entirely out of position. The forward creates a giant vacuum in the middle of the pitch. This is tactical gravity. Think of Stephen Curry in basketball, pulling defenders away simply by standing quietly in the corner. He occupies central defenders so thoroughly that wide areas suddenly burst open, leaving wingers completely isolated in favorable one-on-one matchups while playmakers like Martin Odegaard inherit oceans of space in the center. It looks like the striker is doing almost nothing. He is actually orchestrating the entire attack without ever touching the ball. The defense is so obsessed with stopping the goalscorer that they leave the front door wide open for everyone else. Which is why the summer of 2026 felt so wildly inevitable. Norway entered the FIFA World Cup in North America as a dangerous wildcard. Nobody knew how to handle their setup on the biggest stage. The tournament began in June. Making his debut with that same terrifying lack of urgency was a brilliant disguise. He just strolled around the lethal, scoring consistently throughout their campaign, averaging a goal every 51 minutes, one goal every 14 touches. That ratio completely breaks the sport. You give him the ball 14 times, you concede. Period. Opposing international managers panicked, abandoning their established philosophies and deliberately sacrificing their own midfield superiority just to put extra bodies near a guy who looked like he barely wanted the ball anyway. Whole national teams threw away years of strategic preparation just to babysit a decoy. That global paranoia culminated on July 5th, 2026. The round of 16 against Brazil at MetLife Stadium. Carlo Ancelotti's Brazilian defense arrived stacked with elite talent. They spent the entire match obsessing over the ghost in the center of the pitch. He barely touched the ball during the first 80 minutes. Wandering around the pitch was his only contribution for most of the night. He watched. Brazil completely lost track of him because he wasn't doing anything overtly threatening. And then the trap snapped shut. Two late goals. A stunning brace with just 30 touches total. Brazil was eliminated on the spot, 2-1. A historic, first-ever quarter-final spot secured for Norway. The aftermath looked entirely surreal. The Brazilian players collapsed on the turf in pure shock. They dictated possession. They dictated the tempo. But they were beaten by a phantom. The ghost scored, humiliating their entire defensive philosophy. Celebrating by playing the drum for Norway's iconic Viking row right there on the pitch, he sealed their fate. Gone. Just like that. The tournament favorites sent packing by a man who looked like he was barely participating. Decades of defensive theory ripped up in 90 minutes. This changes how we have to look at the sport forever. We are obsessed with constant action. We want our superstars dripping in sweat, demanding the ball, taking on 3 defenders at once, and dominating every single frame of the television broadcast. But true dominance is making the opponent destroy themselves. It is forcing a world-class center back to abandon his post because he is too afraid of what happens if he stays. He told reporters his dream was to score 5 goals with 5 touches. Everyone laughed at him. They called it arrogant. Nobody is laughing now. 12 hat tricks for Manchester City by April 2026 proves the point. A trail of broken defenses left in his wake tells the real story. Was this a tragic mistake by the defenders who ignored him, or the moment reality finally caught up with Erling Haaland's lethal efficiency? Let me know in the comments. If any of this stuck with you, like and subscribe. There's so much more to uncover.